There's a knack to the chimes. Good morning. Welcome to your neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Sunday service. My name is Reverend Sally Fritsche, and I am the minister of this congregation. It is wonderful to be here with you all this morning. Whether you're here in person or one of the stalwart online participants joining on Zoom, know that this service is here for you, and we hope that you find in it something that you need. For those of us in person, remember to be aware of the various needs and boundaries of one another while we're together, honoring our mask-required seating area, keeping aisles clear for mobility devices, and allowing for social distancing as needed. We're a community of many ages and abilities, which means we embrace whatever little noises or distractions might come with being together. We're committed to a love that makes space for all. If you have a phone or other device that can be silenced, I invite you to do so now, unless your device is something you need in order to access and make yourself comfortable in the service. If there's anything at all you need, especially on this hot Sunday morning, sit, stand, stretch, pace, fidget, get a glass of water. Please feel free to do so at any point. That includes going into the wiggle room, which is just there. It has a couch, comfy seating, some toys and books, or heading to the activity table, which is all ages, and which this Sunday has a special tattoo-themed coloring book. If you're new and would like, thank you. Oh, thank you, Vanna. If you're new and would like to keep in touch, please fill out a newcomer card. It could be in the back of one of the chairs in front of you with your contact info, and leave it in the offering plate when we pass it around later in the service. And know that whoever you are, wherever you are in your relationship to belief, spirituality, community, we are glad you are here. Today's service is an invitation to be together, to rest for a moment amid the busyness of everyday life and reflect more deeply on permanence, on art, on identity, and today on our spiritual relationship to an ancient practice, tattooing. Before we begin, let's take a moment to acknowledge that none of us are here alone. We're here in community, so we'll turn and greet those around us with a good morning, a smile, a bow, a handshake, however you prefer. And after you've greeted a neighbor, wave up at the camera to say hello to those on Zoom. Nice. Thank you. There will be plenty of time for chatting after the service in our cappuccino room with refreshments and drinks. And I am joined today by our wonderful service weaver, Kurt Thompson, who will now help us enter into shared sacred space. Thank you, Kurt.
I am a Danish and German settler, practicing my faith on the treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the traditional lands of the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. Our first peoples understood the spiritual connection that body art entails, marking their bodies with tattoos of their loved ones, their ancestors, the elements of the sky, the water, the land, and of animal spirits. Unfortunately, political leaders and church leaders decided that these markings were evil, and they were forbidden to be used, just in the same way that many indigenous languages were forbidden to be used. Thankfully now, many of our indigenous cultures have reclaimed their language, and also thankfully they have reclaimed body markings. I respect the choice of each individual to show their spirituality in their own way, to grow and to live. And I hope that I can be a part of reconciliation. Oops. My name is Kurt Thompson, and I am honored to be your service weaver this morning. We're joined here by, obviously, our new minister, Reverend Sally Fritsche. And our musical guest is our very own Olga Krahaleva, who is on piano, and who will be joined by Maura McDonald, who will help lead us in our music today. I repeat, I am very honored to be your weaver this morning, because today, well, actually at the beginning of this month, we marked a new stage in our relationship with Reverend Sally, who has now moved into a full-time contract position here at Neighborhood. So, and we will be thankfully seeing a lot more of her in future, and I hope our relationship continues to blossom. Please read with me now Let us now enter into a sacred space. You've already, dealt with your electronic devices. Take a moment to center yourselves, breathe, do whatever you need to. And now, if you would please read with me our opening words, which are projected on the screen. If you're unable to see the screen or do not know the words, let these words flow over you and let the meaning enter you. Let us cast a circle. And to light the symbol of our faith, a chalice, I invite Pak McVeigh to come up and take the light from our children's lantern and light our chalice, which symbolizes that we keep the light of the children's spirit in our hearts. And also for me, it has a secondary meaning, that adults learn from children as children learn from adults, an ever-running circle. It's my pleasure to turn things over to Olga, who will offer our centering music. Olga, what will you be playing this morning?
It's Chopin. It's Chopin.
She'll be playing some Chopin. Wow. Thank you very much for that, Olga. And now, I invite you to continue in sacred space. We have a new way for you to learn about. Wrong one. Is it this one? Yeah. Sorry, wrong sheet. We have a new way for you to learn about what's offered here at Neighborhood, things in Cappuccino Room, our particular spaces. You can find one of these sheets in our Cappuccino Room, and if you can't find them, just approach one of our greeters, and I'm sure they'll be willing to help you find one of these. We come from many beliefs and learn from many traditions. If you're here for the first time, please come again. Our services vary from week to week. Our mission here at Neighborhood is to empower spiritual growth and shared action for the care of our world. We're coming to the end, not quite though, we still have one more week, of our year-long exploration of Love at the Center, an exploration of the Unitarian Universalist of America values that they set out. And then next year, we'll be moving into, as of September, we'll be moving into a theme, a year-long theme of our 8 Unitarian principles. As you probably guessed from what Sally was talking about, we'll be talking a bit of tattoos and other body art. And this is a real expression of love, a love of self and a love of identity. I think the Innick YouTuber and politician and engineer Kapanik Olsen said it thusly: I got my Tanit, what we call Inuit markings, today. These are portals that connect us to our ancestors. These markings have many meanings, and sometimes we choose to keep these meanings private, and that choice must be respected. Inuit markings are for Inuit and not for others. These markings by my eyes are like my binoculars that help me see the beauty through life. Life is amazing. You know, coincidentally, just last weekend, I was talking to my elder brother who just got a tattoo on his forearm to commemorate, because we're coming up to the 10th anniversary of our mother's passing. And he got a tattoo of her signature and her birth and death date. I've been considering getting a particular symbol on my neck at some over the years. Unfortunately, I can no longer do this because it relates to an author who is, let's just say he's had some criminal issues, and I'm doing this in support of the people who he's victimized. Though, mind you, there is another marking I've been considering getting. I've always had a love of the Ouroboros, the snake that eats its own tail. Just the idea of beginnings and endings, continuously meeting up in infinity. So we're going to try a different exercise today. So feel free, if you're willing, to turn to your neighbor for a couple of minutes and talk about any body art that you have. Or if you don't have any body art, talk about what you might want to get, or maybe if you choose not to have a tattoo, or some sort of symbol that means a lot to you. We'll do this for a minute or two, and then Julia will sound a chime to end. Thank you for your sharing. So please sit or stand if you choose so for our opening song.
Thank you, Kurt. Thank you all for sharing. I knew I couldn't do a story or a service about tattoos without giving everyone a chance to show off a little bit, having seen some of the beautiful art in this congregation. We're going to be singing This Little Light of Mine, a song rooted in traditional African-American spiritual music, and we're going to sing it with a verse whose lyrics aren't in our official hymnal, but it's always been my favorite verse because as a kid growing up UU, it gave me an excuse to yell in church. So this verse goes, hide it under a bushel, no. When you like really give it a yell, hide it under a bushel, no. It's just like we were showing off our beautiful body art. We are going to shout out loud that we will not be hiding our light and our beauty under a bushel, but we'll let it shine. So please stand if standing is comfortable for you, and join in singing This Little Light of Mine, which Moira will help lead. Thank you. We're gonna have a musical intro. Oh, we're on, great. From Olga. Good.
now, for all of you who are young in body and in heart, let's focus on what Julia has to say.
Hello. I'm going to tell you the legend of how the ancient art of tattoo, the tattoo, came to the Polynesian people of the Samoan Islands. Now, there are lots of different versions of this story online, but it's always good to go to the source as much as possible, because then you can get a more authentic version. And it's just out of respect to the origins of the story. So I came across a Polynesian storyteller from Samoa telling this story, and it was on a learning site called Tamaite, and this learning site teaches Samoan children living outside of Samoa about their language and culture. So this is one of the stories that she told, and I just loved it. So with gratitude to her, I'm going to share this story. So, Taima and Tilafanya were asked by their cousin to visit Fiti. And so they got into their canoe, and they canoed, they rowed, and they rowed, and they rowed until they got to Fiti. And once they were there, the king of Fiti showed them how to do the ancient art of tattoos. And he showed them the tools, the motifs, the symbols, everything connected to tattoos. And they learned how to do this craft. And then when it was time and then also he said, you must remember this. This is very, very important when you go back. Remember this chant. It goes like this. Tattoo the women, but not the men. Tattoo the women, but not the men. And the sister said, of course we will remember this chant. So, when the day came for the sisters to return to Samoa, the king again reminded them of the chant. Remember, you must remember this chant. Tattoo the women, but not the men. Tattoo the women, but not the men. And the sisters again said, yes, we got this. We will remember this. Don't worry. So they got into their canoe again, and they started to row back. They rowed, and they rowed. And when they got to, let's say, around the middle of the way back on their journey, they began to feel very, very hungry. And they happened to spot a faisua, which is a big, big, giant clam down deep, deep, deep into the ocean. And they were so hungry that they dove off the canoe. They dove down, 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 deep into the water. And then they got to the clam and brought it back so that they could have the food. But when they got to the top, they were somehow a bit confused, and they were trying to remember the chant. And they thought it would come back to them as they started to row. So they rowed, and they rowed, and they could not remember if it was the men who were supposed to be tattooed or the women who were supposed to be tattooed. And when they got back, they somehow reversed the chant so that it became, you can do this if you want. Tattoo the men, but not the women. Tattoo the men, but not the women. Oh! And that is why in Samoa, the men get the pi'a, which is a full tattoo, and the women get the malu, which is a leg tattoo, because the sisters got the chant mixed up. And there be my story, be it bitter, be it sweet. Take what you like. It has been a treat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julia. I brought the idea of, we should do something acknowledging and honoring the origins of the word tattoo, the practice of tattooing, and I knew that she would nail it, bring the storyteller energy. So tattoos as a practice are increasingly common nowadays. More than 1 in 3 Canadian adults has at least one tattoo. People often ascribe deep meaning to their choice to get tattooed, meaning that could very easily be spiritual or religious. I mean, I'm sure the conversations that you had just now with the people sitting near you touched on all kinds of themes of family, ancestry, meaningful memories, loss, relationship to something greater than yourself. Once you start talking to people about their body art, you're guaranteed to hear stories of deep spiritual meaning. Given that, it's honestly a little bit strange that we don't talk more about tattoos, from the pulpit or in religious settings. Much like we try to support and guide one another through hardships or decisions, through life's highs and lows, why shouldn't this also be a space where we can lift up and really think deeply about this practice that we're engaging in, maybe without thinking about very actively? And it might feel strange, I know, for some to bring tattoos up at church because there are some long-standing religious prohibitions against tattooing. That while many indigenous or earth-centered traditions consider the practice sacred, and Buddhist and Hindu-influenced traditions tend to be more indifferent, given the attitude toward the body as temporary or illusory, Abrahamic faiths have a history of explicitly forbidding tattoos, thanks largely to a verse in Leviticus in the Hebrew Bible or Christian Old Testament that says, "Ye shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you." Along with many of the other restrictions and laws included in the book of Leviticus, there's a lot of diversity of interpretations and diversity of strictness among believers, Christian, Muslim, and Jewish alike, when it comes to the question of whether this means tattoos actually are forbidden. But it's a fact that many conquering and colonizing regimes have outlawed traditional tattooing. And there is still discrimination today against culturally specific tattoos. And the topic is complicated even further by a parallel history of subjugated people sometimes being tattooed against their will to mark them explicitly as less than or as property. Enslaved people in ancient Rome were often tattooed to make it harder to escape. In Japan, criminals were tattooed with marks denoting their crimes, which then led to a practice of organized crime groups decorating members' skin with elaborate and beautiful tattoos that incorporated or partially covered up their crime markings. Tattoos are still associated with crime in many parts of the world. And of course, victims of the Holocaust were tattooed with numbers, a system deliberately designed to erase their names and histories and turn them into just one body among many. A specific history that lends particular weight to the biblical prohibitions against tattooing in many Jewish households to this day. The history of this practice is not a simple one. It's not easy. It would be shallow to say that it's purely about beautiful art or purely about self-expression. But the history of tattooing is also long. It's very long, longer perhaps than any of us know. Carved prehistoric figurines seem to show tattooed patterns on statues' skin. And Otzi, the ancient man found mummified by ice in the Alps, who died over 5,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, had 61 tattoos, mostly small lines adorning his limbs and back. And when I looked up photos of Otzi's tattoos, I felt a sort of historical vertigo when I saw this one, the double line at his wrist, looking at my own double line encircling my forearm. It was this feeling of suddenly no longer being a person looking at a piece of history, but just a human being looking at another human being. A sudden closeness and sameness across 5,000 years of history. Another ancient person, a woman who died 2,500 years ago and was found mummified in the mountains near the Mongolian border, had beautiful and intricate tattoos of animals and mythical creatures all over her body. This is a leaping reindeer that was on her shoulder, displaying an incredible level of artistic ability, not to mention a commitment to the art, despite the cost of recovering and possible infection. It's clear that for whatever reason, humans have been driven to decorate our bodies with permanent art for just about as long as we have been humans. As we continue to move through today's service together, I invite you to continue reflecting on your own relationship to tattoos. Have you too felt the urge to decorate your skin in this ancient human practice? And whether the answer is yes or no, what assumptions do you make about tattoos? About what they mean to you or should mean to you? Is tattooing a spiritual practice for you? I invite you to continue reflecting on the question of how or whether body art features in your own spiritual life, and we'll return together to this reflection later in the service. For now, I'll return us to Kurt, who will lead us in sharing the joys and concerns of our own lives with one another.
Please join me if you know this song, For All That Is Our Life. For all that is our life, we give our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
Thank you. Thank you to our musicians and to all who shared from your hearts, joys and sorrows alike. I know that it would be lots of fun for us to have a Sunday service that basically amounts to me saying, hey everyone, tattoos are super cool. I mean, I don't just want us to talk about or destigmatize tattoos. I want us to take them seriously, at least for this hour together. I want to create space for everyone here to actually go deep and begin to construct your own theology of tattoos, or if not theology, your credo, your I believe statement. For example, do you believe there are moral and immoral ways to practice tattooing? What marks the boundary between good and bad, and what are your personal boundaries? It might seem easy to say, for example, that everyone should be free to decorate their body how they choose, but consider the visceral fear felt by marginalized people seeing, say, a swastika or SS tattoo. Consider, too, the deep history and meaning in Polynesian tattoos like the Samoan pe'a and malu, or Inuit markings, and colonial attempts to punish and stamp out indigenous tattooing practices, and then the modern prevalence of so-called tribal tattoos, often acquired without any connection or interest in those traditions. If we take the choice to be tattooed, to wear a permanent mark seriously, then that means we need to bring our ethics into it as well. If we defend this practice as sacred self-expression, then we owe it to ourselves to consider what about ourselves needs to be expressed. What is the sacred thing that we are expressing? And even more rich than these broad questions of right and wrong are the matters of our own personal sense of what feels right or doesn't in our own relationship to decorating our body. You don't have to think that's wrong in order to think that's wrong for me. Just like when it comes to our own sexuality or sexual ethics, it's worthwhile to spend time in the safety of supportive community, thinking through our feelings and our boundaries. There are people who will never feel the urge to get a tattoo. There are people who will get tons of tattoos off of pre-drawn flash sheets, absolutely putting no thought into it at all. There are people who are still waiting to feel committed enough to the right image or idea. Some tattoo artists, for example, simply refuse for ethical reasons to tattoo wedding bands or the names of romantic partners. And then some lovers get name after name after name tattooed on their arm and are untroubled, a lifetime of romantic ups and downs chronicled on their skin. The reason I think it's so interesting to spend time reflecting on our own boundaries or personal comfort around tattoos is that these conversations can reveal a lot beyond just this narrow topic of tattooing. It can reveal a lot about how we see ourselves, how we see our bodies, how we hope that we're seen by others. It can uncover certain existential anxieties around commitment, around permanence and impermanence, change and selfhood. You can ask yourself, what, if anything, is scary about tattooing? And what does that answer teach you about yourself? For some people, the pain is scary. Needles are scary. For some, the possibility of social stigma or parental judgment is scary. For some, it's the question of what will it look like when I'm old and wrinkly, when I gain weight, when I carry a pregnancy. For many, many of us, the most scary thing about tattoos is just that they are always going to be there. We're afraid that at some point in the future, we will change and the ink will stay the same, reminding us of something that we no longer find meaningful or no longer wish to remember. And the thing is, that's also the reason to get a tattoo. It's to immortalize something, to guard it against that change. So this is my UU theology of tattoos starting to take shape. I understand the practice of tattooing as being related to the inevitability of change and this kind of urge to fight back against that. A tattoo is an embodiment of the relationship between our past and future selves. The younger and older self forced to reckon with each other because they share a physical link, a deliberately chosen mark that stays even as everything else changes. Most everyone who has lived can look back on some decision they made with regret. If you can't, that's amazing, and I would like to talk to you. But most of us can look back at a decision or an attitude with relief that we're no longer that person, embarrassment, even shame at who we used to be. It's this fact that makes a practice like tattooing feel fraught, right? I know for a fact there are tons of people walking around with tattoos that they regret, that they think are embarrassing, that they go to great lengths to cover up or have removed. And no one wants to be stuck with a reminder of who they used to be when they've worked hard to change for the better. It can feel so much simpler, cleaner, to be able to pretend that wasn't us, sweep that old self under the rug. And it's much harder to do if you're confronted every day with the art that your old self permanently put on your body. Now let me pause for a second and say that the Buddhists among us might be listening and thinking, permanent? What's permanent? Or possibly even self? What does she mean by self? Older self, younger self? Psh, that's nothing. So remember, this is just my UU understanding of tattoos. Yours is going to look so different. There is interesting conversation to be had if we are all thinking deeply about our own I believe statement. I look forward to hearing more about all of yours. I have a close friend who grew up obsessed with Disney and got a Mickey Mouse logo tattooed right here on her shoulder when she was 19, when we were in college together. Now she is in her mid-30s and a former Disney Parks employee with a very different and more complicated relationship with the brand. But she doesn't regret her tattoo. She feels an almost big sisterly tenderness toward that 19-year-old self. All of the hope and excitement that she felt when getting it. She can almost reach through time to offer comfort and support to that younger girl when she brushes her fingers against that now slightly blurry Disney logo. In a tattoo, the past self has a way to directly demand recognition, to resist being forgotten, or having the things that it found most important forgotten. No matter how cringy we might find it, like reading an old diary entry. There's something fiercely admirable about the version that is immortalized in written diary pages or in regrettable tattoos. It demands to be reckoned with one way or another. And if we can manage it, it asks to be understood, appreciated, loved, forgiven. I believe we would be living in a very different world if we all got more practice remembering and loving, truly loving the younger selves who made terrible or embarrassing decisions that we would rather forget. If we were a bit better at doing that, maybe we would be more able to give our present selves permission to live, to trust our own judgment, safe in the knowledge that our future self will understand that we're doing the best we can. The relationship ideally goes both ways, not just care and understanding for our younger self, but for the future as well. One UU minister I spoke to recently, she's about 20 years older than me, colorfully tattooed, said she was happy to see so many younger people expressing themselves with body art, but it made her sad when any young person was completely tattooed head to foot. Not because she thought it looks bad, but because it reads like an assumption that their older self won't have anything to say. Like filling up the whole journal, she said, without leaving space for yourself to change or have new thoughts and experiences. She then said, of course, everyone has their own motivations. If that's what you want to do, go for it. But the observation resonates with my own growing understanding of tattoos as an expression of relationship between past and future. An obligation on both sides to care for and consider one another, to leave space. Regardless of the choices our younger selves make, we all get marked by life, all of us. Wrinkles, scars, freckles and moles, stretch marks, burst capillaries, even little dots that are tattooed for radiation treatment. It can be easy to forget when we talk about permanence and the specter of tattoo regret. Easy to convince ourselves that if we don't choose to mark our skin, it will remain unmarked. And that is a lie. No matter what we choose, all of us will be marked by life. Your body is a temple is a saying sometimes used to insist that bodies must be kept pristine or pure, untouched. But your body is also your home, and it's already going to be getting messy on its own. You can paint the walls if you want to. You should live in it in whatever way brings more beauty and light into the world. Now, it's not my aim to convince everyone to run downtown and get matching chalice tattoos today, unless... But seriously, if you're here still thinking like a tattoo will never be for you, that doesn't bother me in the least. That's great. So long as you're holding that feeling up to the light and giving it your full attention, thinking about where that feeling comes from and what it might teach you about your own understanding of the world, your fellow humans, your own body. I want us to leave today thinking more deeply about the practice of tattooing, but more than that, I want us to be thinking about how we, people in this room, humans, how we view ourselves, our bodies, our commitments, our fundamental selves, about what understanding and care we owe to our younger and older self, how we might practice that, and how that understanding and care might extend beyond us. So take a breath, and another. And we're going to enter into a time for some quiet meditation, prayer, thoughtful silence as Olga accompanies us. There are so many ways to connect with the life of this community at Neighborhood. As summer ends and we gear up for the beginning of a new congregational year, be sure to read your Friday email announcements from the neighborhood office each week, where you'll find reminders about upcoming events, opportunities to volunteer, and ways to reach out for connection here at Neighborhood. Coming up this week, we have a special birthday party right here in Rafos Hall. Paul is turning 80, and everyone is invited. It's 2 p.m. this Wednesday. Snacks and stories from 80 years of life will be provided. No presents needed, just your presence. And coming up later this month, the Mississaugas of the Credit Powwow is happening Saturday, August 23rd. We talk about them every week in our land acknowledgement. This is your chance to meet our treaty neighbors, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, in their reserve community in Hagersville. If you'd like to join the trip and or if you can drive, please reach out to Moira. Moira is the one who has been singing for us this morning. Thank you. And there is a driver needed for this trip. We have a group of 7 that are definitely going. We have 2 cars, but we only have 1 driver. So if you are able to drive and interested in going, please, again, let Moira know. We might already have found that driver. Oh, great, but we'll always take more. Thank you, Moira. Coming up on Sunday, August 24th, after the service, we will all be heading together to Withrow Park, to the fire pit near the playground, for a picnic potluck lunch. So bring along a dish to share, and we'll all just truck on over there. Anyone with a vehicle can offer rides. We can take TTC. We can walk together, but plan for a picnic next time we're together. The following week, there's going to be a neighborhood family pool day. If you've got kids in your family, you're invited to come together, have a picnic lunch at the, Sunnyside pool? The big old pool next to the lake. The huge, iconic pool, says Julia. Right by the beaches. Well, the actual details will be going out in an email. This is our first announcement about it. And that will be on August 26th, a Tuesday. Coming up in the fall, we've got small group offerings, and they are multiplying. We've got 3 right now, Writing from the 4 Directions with Peter Marmarek. Deepen and expand your writing practice in a supportive small group setting. And he's limiting that to 12 spots open, so talk to him, send him an email if you want to join. I'll be leading a group on There's No Good Card for This, practical guidance on what to say and do when friends are going through hard times. It's inspired by a book of that title, but you do not need to purchase a copy of the book. Anything you need will be covered in the group. And Art as a Spiritual Practice with Christina Keel. Deepen your spiritual practice by engaging in meditative artistic activities. No experience required. All artistic levels welcome. Our neighborhood kids program is in need of volunteers, either regular volunteers or occasional pinch hitters. It's always very, very fun. I have been in the Rainbow Room myself, and it's amazing. So there's a sign-up sheet in the cappuccino room, or speak to Julia after the service if you're interested. As always, check the screen in the cappuccino room and your Friday weekly email. There will always be more announcements. There will always be more than we can cover during the service. So keep an eye on that and get involved in whatever way feels right to you. No service next Sunday. We're still in summer services, which means every other week. And our next service will be August 24th. I'll be leading it, and the topic is longing for belonging, about the difference between belonging and fitting in, and what we miss out on when we get one and not the other. All right, Bert.
All right. Please work. There are many ways to give here at Neighborhood, and we thank all who give in the baskets, and e-transfers from your bank or post-dated checks. And if you're online, please look for the link to our donation page. Also, we also have things with QR codes. You can also go to our donation page as well in the sheets. We also understand that some of you may not be the most financially comfortable situations. I know I'm somewhat in that situation myself. So we ask, give what you can. All donations are welcome. And if you have found friends here, home here, love here, and community here, let this offering be a token to our greater life and our greater good. I invite the greeters to come and collect the baskets while Olga plays. Thank you for your donations. And before we go to our final song, there's a little activity that Sally would like to invite us to participate in.
That is right. It hardly seemed fair to talk all morning about tattoos and body art and decorating ourselves and stay entirely in the realm of thinking and talking instead of embodying with our bodies. So I'm not going to break out the tattoo guns, but we do have a whole bunch of temporary tattoos, which Julia and Brenda are going to help pass down the rows. Just grab any that catch your eye. And right here, right now, we will leave church today a little more decorated than we arrived. It's my hope that you'll leave with some part of the emotions you felt or connections you've made in your own mind, captured in a physical reminder, so that the person you are tonight can think fondly back on the person you were this morning. Folks at home, I'm very sorry I can't beam tattoos directly through the screen onto you, but I encourage you to grab a pen or a marker and just doodle yourself a temporary design, simple as a smiley face or a heart, and join together in this tattoo offering. We'll have a little music leading into our closing hymn, but just take a look at the tray in your row and don't overthink it. Here, I'm going to show, if you don't know how to do temporary tattoos, I'm going to do one right now. So they all have a little plastic film on them. So you peel the plastic film off, and then it's kind of like it's a little bit sticky, and then you stick it right on a part of your body that's like relatively, like not a lot of hair, not like a really bendy part. So inner arm is great, shoulder, cheekbone. Stick it right on your skin, and then get one of these wet sponges that my lovely assistants are handing out, and just soak the heck out of it. And when the paper's all the way wet, all the way through, it's really making a mess, gently peel. Oh no, I gotta make it more wet. All right. Then gently peel the paper off. Ta-da! All right, we'll apply our tattoos, and once it looks like most of us are newly decorated, we'll join in our closing hymn together. Okay, I'll go grab one. All right, if you are freshly tattooed, hold it up so I can see how far along we've gotten. Oh, amazing. And a leg. Love that. Thank you all so much. I'm going to invite Moira back up to help lead us in our closing hymn. And when we were trying to think of what are some tattoo-related hymns we could go with, it was Suzanne that came up with the Fire of Commitment. Because really, thinking about, commitment, permanence, what does it mean to really commit to a design? So Moira will lead us in singing this closing hymn together. Thank you.
Okay, if you could rise, if you're willing, able, if you feel compelled, I invite you to do that. This song, some of us may know it, some of us who are newer may not know it. It's got a bit of a swing to it. It's kind of like a long, short, short, long, short, short. So if you can kind of get that in your body, long, short, short, that may help if this song is not familiar to you. And I will invite Olga to give us a little intro. From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
I always get a little happy and a little sad at this time in the service because we're heading to the time when we have to close out the service and extinguish the chalice and, well, say goodbye to some people who might have to leave early. But anyways, I invite Pat McVeigh to please come and extinguish our chalice at this time. And please join us in a We invite you, if you do so wish, to join hands or arms or touch shoulders with the people beside you. If not, you just stand aside and just give a namaste and form a circle as we have usually done. And I'll pass it to Sally for a closing blessing.
As we return to our separate worlds and separate lives today, may we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within all of us. May that light shine brightly. May it not be hidden. May it shine out not just through our skin and through our faces, but through our deeds, through our actions. May we live authentically with integrity, and may we shine, shine, shine. Amen. And go in peace. Thank you.